Hello and welcome to the memory card. 2017 was a bit of a rocky year in a lot of ways, but when it comes to video games, aside from some notable exceptions, mostly dealing with loot boxes, screwing up lore of Lord of the Rings, and also some bad ports, aside from that stuff, 2017 was filled to the brim with absolutely fantastic games. I think 2017 is going to go down as one of the best years ever for video games, alongside years like 1998 and 2007, among others. But I digress. I figured I'd start off 2018 not only by completely redoing this video because the audio was completely unusable the last time I shot this, further delaying this video. Yay. I figured I'd start off 2018 by starting on a positive note. Not only because I'm happy because I've got a Charmander keeping Kirby company up there on top of my CRT TV, but also I'm going to cap off 2017 by talking about my top 10 favorite games of 2017. "2017 overall was definitely a year of surprises, and the number 10 pick on this list, my very official list that's only my opinion, so it doesn't really matter that much, but it definitely goes to an extraordinarily surprising game. It's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice for the PlayStation 4. I mean, who thought that Ninja Theory would make a game about psychosis? This game is one of the most unique and powerful games I've ever played, and the way this game portrays psychosis is absolutely enthralling and yet deeply uncomfortable at the same time. It recommends that you play this game with headphones, and I definitely agree with that because when I was recording this for the video, I definitely missed out on the directional audio that it uses with the headphones with the voices in Senua's head, and the way they use those voices is just extraordinarily effective and definitely does a great job of portraying psychosis. I mean, they actually had a mental health professional that was focused on psychosis to be able to make sure that they got this portrayal as correct as possible, and that's a really cool detail that adds to this game. And it's not only cool because of that, but mid-tier games were things that I really miss about the PS2 and GameCube days, especially because those were games where companies could be a bit more experimental and yet still have some of those high fidelity visuals of the time. And unfortunately, those kinds of games kind of died out during the Xbox 360 and PS3 days for the most part, thanks to the skyrocketing budgets of games to where, for the most part nowadays, it's only indie games with very low budgets or AAA games with astronomical budgets, and there's not much middle ground until now, thanks to Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Not all of it is perfect, but it had to be on my list alone just for how much of an impact it made on me and just how unique this game is. The number 9 spot goes to yet another fantastically made and very unique PlayStation 4 game. It's Nier Automata, or Automata, however it's supposed to be pronounced. The way this game blends so many different genres is something truly captivating, and I've never seen it done so seamlessly ever. Going from a scrolling spaceship shooter to a twin stick shooter to a 2D platformer, then to a spectacle fighter, and then isometric, just Nier Automata is not content to just have masterful gameplay. No, this game has an ending for every letter of the alphabet, and it plays with your expectations and the narrative and the gameplay, especially with the subsequent playthroughs, that just adds to the mastery of this game. Nier Automata deserves all the critical praise it's earned and further justifies my love of Platinum games. Number 8 on my list goes to the last big release for the Nintendo Switch in 2017. It's Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This game's gorgeous, colorful art style won me over immediately, and the deep battle system and likable characters and compelling narrative just further add to the reasons why I love this game. Although, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is definitely flawed. It's got some inconsistency in the voice acting, and the combat pacing and the stacking of boss battles can be really annoying. And the villains are kind of weak and boring to me, but these flaws do keep it from being higher on my list, and keep it from being my favorite JRPG of the year, but they didn't keep me from loving the many, many hours I poured into this game. Being able to play this game portably definitely added to it as well. being able to put in a lot more time, because trying to put in time onto JRPGs on a traditional home console can be a bit taxing because of just how many hours you have to put in front of your TV, but being able to take this game on the go is definitely fantastic. We're keeping the theme of striking art styles and JRPGs. For my number 7 pick, it's Persona 5 for the PlayStation 4. I would be crazy to talk about this game without mentioning the stunning art direction and the design of the UI in this game. There's so much love and attention in every detail in this game, and the additions to the impeccable Persona battle system makes this the best JRPG of the year for me. I mean, the Persona games already have my favorite battle systems and really any JRPG, but the additions of being able to hold up enemies and being able to pass the baton over to your other party members whenever you've got a critical hit on someone is definitely really cool and helps make the combat even more dynamic. And this would have been higher on my list if the narrative of this installment gripped me in the same way. I just don't tend to enjoy the characters quite as much in the prior entries in the franchise, and it streamlined away some of the focus on the high school life and the minutiae of things that I really enjoyed in Persona 3 and 4. It's interesting how much things were really changed up with this game, but regardless of all of that, the Persona games are my favorite JRPGs ever, aside from some other really notable games, like some of the Final Fantasies are really great, and I love Pokemon so much, but seriously, the Persona games are amazing. If you've never played them, I would recommend Persona 4, any version of that, whether on the Vita, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, whatever, or Persona 5. Either one of those are great entry points, and considering that Persona 5 is the only one of those that's on the PS4 as far as I know, it definitely makes a great entry point to the franchise for newcomers. It's very approachable and has a very interesting narrative, and I love the way the dungeons are themed around the particular characters, which is something they carried over from Persona 4. But anyway, I have to cut myself off here because I could talk about the Persona games forever. A lot of us, including myself, thought that 2017 would be the last year of the 3DS getting major support from Nintendo, but we were wrong, and I'm still hoping that 2018 is the last year of major releases for the 3DS. Please, Nintendo, just focus on the Switch. We all want the Switch to succeed, like it has been. But anyway, there have been some really cool releases for the 3DS in 2017, and to me, the most important release of the year for this 3DS was Metroid Samus Returns. When this game was announced at E3, people lost their minds, and we were already reeling from the Metroid Prime 4 announcement, and this reimagining of this classic Game Boy game got us to break out our 3DSs for another special adventure, and with the additions of the melee counter system and the general design of this game, this is the most fun I've ever had with a 2D Metroid game, which is saying a lot. Mercury Steam knocked it out of the park with this game, and I hope they get to make a completely new 2D Metroid game for the Nintendo Switch in the near future. I would buy that day one just like I did Metroid Samus Returns. And in case you passed up this game because you tossed the 3DS in the closet the moment you got your Nintendo Switch, go back and dust it off and go pick up this game today, whether it's in the store or download, because you will not be disappointed. This is an amazing 2D Metroid experience that fans have been clamoring for ever since Metroid Fusion came out. Now, the placement of my number 5 pick might throw some people off, but I think that just further proves how absolutely stacked with great games this year was, and it's no knock on this game at all, but it's just hard for me to put this over any of my other picks on the list here that's coming up, but it's Horizon Zero Dawn for the PlayStation 4. This game would have been a knockout just from the fact that you can hunt robot dinosaurs, because that's awesome, but add to it a really compelling protagonist with Aloy, an engrossing narrative, and a wonderfully designed world, and you've got a winner on your hands, and it's a no-brainer for the PlayStation 4 library. It's unfortunate that this game came out so close to another certain open-world game, because playing this afterwards did feel a bit limiting in my traversal methods. Also, a good amount of side quests and a lot of the facial animations left something to be desired. When a game tries to be a bit more photorealistic rather than really hyper-stylized like Persona 5 is, those things pop out a lot more to me. However, a few minor critiques aside, and those are very minor, this game is something special, and it definitely is worth getting a PlayStation 4 for. I mean, Alongside the other PlayStation 4 games that's been on this list, this was one of the big reasons I bought that system this year. Guerrilla Games should be proud of their work that they did with Horizon Zero Dawn, and I hope we get to see more out of this lush world with further installments in this hopeful franchise, because I can't wait to see what they do next. Like I said at the beginning of my list, 2017 was a year of surprises with video games, and I can't think of a game that was more shocking to the pretty much the entire games industry than Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle for the Nintendo Switch. The pre-E3 leaks of this game put me off, alongside a lot of other people, but when I saw this game showcased at E3, and I saw that Davide Soliani and the rest of his team at Ubisoft Milan had something special on their hands. When I finally got this game the day it came out, I was so thoroughly impressed by this game in just about every way. Grant Kirkhope's soundtrack is as amazing as you'd expect, the animation is near Pixar levels of quality, and the story is a lot of fun, and the rabbits are actually funny and likable, which is shock enough for me. And not only that, but the gameplay is just fantastic, taking familiar elements from XCOM and turning it into something unique and, to me, even more fun. The special abilities, increased mobility, and less arbitrary chances of actually hitting anything, alongside all the other qualities I mentioned, made this easily my favorite strategy game of the year, and I can't wait to see what Davide's team can make in future installments or completely new IPs or new mashups of Nintendo elements and characters. I can't wait to see what they do. The number 3 game on my list took just about everything I loved about the original Wii U game and made just about every bit of it better. It's Splatoon 2 for the Nintendo Switch. The art style and music are unique and so full of life, and the fast gameplay is made even better with the addition of new modes and weapon types. The single player campaign is a lot better this time around, and there is still no online multiplayer shooter that I've enjoyed more than this game. And the Splatfest and the near perfect gameplay shine in this game alongside its lovely style. It is such a charming and likable game, and I'm looking forward to seeing what gets added to this game over time. And I'm glad that I managed to pick up one of those Ethernet adapters for the Switch, because this game alongside Rocket League's online multiplayer showed just how terrible my Wi-Fi is. But it's nice finally getting to play a lot more of those online sessions without getting booted out all the time. Now, before I get to the top 2 spots on my list, I figured I should run through a couple of the honorable mentions, because there was no way I would have had time to get to all the amazing games released in 2017. Some games I just completely missed out on, and others I loved, but I just couldn't barely be able to fit them on my top 10 list. I couldn't have taken anything off of this list, even know how much I really liked these games. But first of all is Cuphead for the PC. That is such a fun, challenging, and uniquely stylized 2D boss rush run and gun game. It's extraordinarily challenging, but it is very satisfying whenever you finally beat that boss or that run and gun level, and playing in co-op is a lot of fun as well, and it definitely deserves all the accolades it's been getting. It is such a unique game, and being able to capture that Steamboat Willie 1930s and 1940s animation style, being able to capture that in a video game is something truly special. And Neo for the PlayStation 4 takes the familiar Dark Souls Bloodborne formula and changes things up in some fun ways with the different stances that you can take with your weapons and the unique location and environment with the highly mystical and fantasized feudal Japan setting. And it's really, really hard, and I really, really suck at it, but it is awesome and definitely deserves a look. And another PlayStation 4 game that I really loved this year was Yakuza 0. This game made me a fan of the Yakuza franchise, and this was the first one I ever played out of the series. This game is so funny and weird, and it's hard not to enjoy yourself playing this game just because it is so weird. It doesn't take itself too seriously. You'll see weird things all the time. All the different side missions are so much fun, and it's such a likable game. It's got some weird quirks to it, but it's not a game to miss. There was a second Yakuza game that came out in 2017 called Yakuza Kiwami, but I haven't gotten around to playing it yet because I still haven't beat Yakuza 0 yet, because there's a lot to that game, and there's a lot of games for me to play right now, but I can't wait to sink my teeth into the Yakuza series because I definitely regret not playing them sooner. But actually, before I finish off these honorable mentions, I haven't played Wolfenstein 2 yet because I plan on playing that on the Switch next year. Here's hoping the port for that is as good as the port for Doom was on the Switch. Because I really like the well, first of the new Wolfenstein games, New Order. And I hope the Switch version of Wolfenstein 2 will be really great too, because I would definitely like to be able to play that on the go as well. But without further ado, let's get on to the top two. My top two games on my list probably won't be that surprising, but what's probably more interesting is the exact placement. Now, both games, Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, are in my eyes the best games of their respective franchises. I've never enjoyed a game more out of those two franchises than Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. And they do a lot of things that are very similar, but a lot of things that are drastically different. But overall, I'm going to have to give the number 2 slot to Super Mario Odyssey. And that's no knock to that game whatsoever. Super Mario Odyssey is just filled to the brim with fun and creativity, and it's hard to play that game and not smile. It is just such a happy and fun game, and the levels are filled with so much crazy stuff that you'd never expect in a Mario game, like being able to play as a T-Rex or as a Goomba or so many other things. This game is just... it's one of those games that it's definitely worth buying a Switch for. It blends so much of the awesomeness of the 3D Super Mario 3D games like Super Mario 64 or Mario Sunshine or the Galaxy games, but expands that freedom to dimensions that have never been seen before in the Mario games. And yet there's still these really cool 2D sections that are fun throwback. This game's like a great celebration for the entire Mario franchise and the years that we've all played these games. I mean, like the rest of you, I've played Mario games since I was a little kid. Granted, I was terrible at them, but still, there's a lot of memories that are locked up in this game, and hunting for all the moons is a blast, and whenever you play this game, which you should if you haven't played it already, when you get to the end game and beat the final boss and all that, keep playing, because the best of that game is right after the credits. Now on to my number 1 pick, which probably won't be much of a shock considering I'm wearing a Zelda shirt. It's The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The best game I've ever played. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I mean, where do I even start with that game? I've already gushed over it in its own particular review and also on my top 15 Switch games of 2017, because I mean, what else is there really for me to say other than, well, the DLC came out and it was good, but I could have gotten a bit more out of it, but regardless, I have never enjoyed my time with the game more, and no game has ever made more of an impact on me and been so memorable to me than this game. The months of anticipation leading up to it were not only met with all that hype and anticipation I was building over those months, but they were exceeded more than I could have ever expected. This game is about as close to perfect as any game could possibly ever get. I don't see how Nintendo could possibly top Breath of the Wild. Perhaps they might manage to make a Zelda game that's better with the sequel, if they kind of Majora's Mask Breath of the Wild, but I'm not sure if there'll ever be another Zelda game that's able to mean more to me than this game, or really any game period, because for most of my life, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was my favorite game of all time. It got me into RPGs, and I like Knights of the Republic more than I like a lot of the Star Wars movies, and Star Wars is my favorite thing ever. But somehow Breath of the Wild managed to top that game for me. And this game had a lot of memories in store for me, and I've put about 300 hours in this game, and I'm going to put a lot more into it as time goes on. This is a game that I'm always going to be able to come back to whenever I'm bored or feeling down or happy, whatever my mood. I can always jump into Hyrule and explore the best open world game I've ever played. And there have been great open world games like The Witcher 3, but this game's a masterclass in open world design and game design in general. And I can't wait to see what Nintendo's going to be able to do to possibly live up to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So there's my list of my top 10 favorite games of 2017. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite games were this year. Chances are you might not have completely agreed with my list. Chances are you might have thought I was crazy for my picks, but whatever. It's the games I enjoyed the most. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what 2018 has in store with game releases because there's definitely some interesting things coming. I'm personally really excited for Bayonetta 1 and 2 coming to the Switch. Looking forward to the new Yoshi game on the Switch and Kirby Star Allies on the Switch. I'm hoping Spider Man's going to be really good on the PS4 and Last of Us 2 and God of War. I'm interested in seeing what they do. I'm hoping that this will be able to keep the trend of last year of a lot of the big releases actually coming out this year. And hopefully Red Dead Redemption 2 actually comes out this year as well. And hopefully there'll be a Nintendo Direct soon so I can see hopefully what's going to be coming to the Switch as well this year. But regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the memory card.